debt, investing, and how to, what type of things we have to do when we're purchasing a home and all of that. Read it. Read it. Get it. It's free. It's free. A lot of times how we talk about how our tithe is used, right? Well, the tithe that you send, of course, nothing stays in the local church. Part of it goes to a local conference so that we can have pastors and teachers in other areas, but part of it also goes to higher organizations. And one of them is the North American Division, so that there are people in the North American Division coming up with these kind of manuals, and there are, of course, just not only this, but different other resources that you can have access to, and your life can be blessed. Amazingly blessed. Please, yes. You just have to go to the North American Division website and go to the stewardship department, and you will find the resource there. And you can just download it. I don't know. I suppose they have a book. I don't know if they sell the book or how they can make it available, honestly. But this is literally a PDF that you can print out and have for yourself. Amazing resource. And there's a resource for participants and one for teachers. For example, if you wanted to give a class on this, it gives you different other type of angles to talk about with people and where they can find these principles too. So I encourage you, please, make sure that you get this for yourself. It's there. It's just there. You can get it for free. Now I probably want to talk about 4 different areas, and now we are actually going to get to the practical side. But remember, all these 4 areas, they rest on the 4 principles that we talked about before, right? Yes, there are many ways, or there are principles, specific principles that you can apply in your life, in your personal finances, in order to have healthy finances that are based on the Bible. These are things that we can find in the Bible. But all of that, all those practical things, they rest on the principles that we talked about. That makes sense? All right. First, working with a balanced budget. 2, having no debt. 3, saving and investing. And 4, being generous. And I have about half an hour that I can continue, where I want us to talk about these 4 things. Hopefully I can make it. All right. First of all, a balanced budget. Let me read first from Luke 14:28. Suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? Remember that? Remember this from the Bible? Isn't it interesting? When I found that, I was like, yes, the Bible talks about budgeting. Interesting. Isn't it nice that the Bible talks about this specifically? It's not like a random thing. It's not another verse that kind of talks about the topic, but not really, and that we use it sometimes. Talks specifically about that. So when it comes to our finances, having healthy finances, to me, the most basic, but at the same time important thing that we need to do, and that we have to work with, and that we have to find a way to do that, is budgeting. There's just no way. We talk a lot about how God can protect our finances by, not allowing our car to break down or something like that, right? Or we talk a lot about, well, if God gave me more money, I would be able to do this, so. And a lot of times we're not even willing to budget. We're not even willing to sit down and, take a look at my finances and how we can work out really. How this can be a reality in my life. And let me tell you, to me it's interesting. Of course, I'm a person that deals with finances, and of course, I would think, or I think that it comes naturally to me And I remember even at very early age, making a budget for, I don't know, maybe $20 that I used to get a week from a little job that I had, and trying to decide what I'm going to use with every single dollar. Yes, yeah, I can think that it comes naturally to me, but the reality is that this is just, again, the most basic thing, but at the same time, the most important thing. It is almost impossible to be able to have healthy finances if you don't have a budget, if you don't manage, if you don't sit down and say, I'm gonna plan to do this, and then review what I did. And I'll be honest with you too. It's a problem that you can find not just in people's personal finances, but in many organizations all the time. Not budgeting correctly, having a lot of different problems at the time of budgeting. Because you can have a budget there, but if you don't see it, if you don't go to it, if you don't make sure that you're following, then there's a problem. If you have a budget, but this budget is not balanced, this budget says that you're going to spend more than what you are earning, then you have a problem. And all different kinds of things that can come from this. Having a budget and working with it and moving towards it is the most basic thing that you can do and have to do. Now, you don't see this, you're not able to see this, but the spreadsheet that you see there is a budget that I found in the website of the North American division, and where they are describing basically a budget that is for finances. And what is really interesting to me, and what I love so much about this one, is that it breaks it down in percentages. It breaks it down in percentages. I love that because it really doesn't matter how much you earn. Really, it doesn't matter how much you earn. Yes, it is true that if you earn, I don't know, I'm just gonna come up with a number, $20,000 a year, it is a low number. It is gonna be, almost, impossible. I don't know. You can use the whatever word you want, but it probably is gonna be impossible to manage to sustain a family with a $20,000 a year. But I would dare a little bit to say that I don't think that the majority of us are in that situation. I'm going to dare to say that all of us have a more than decent income a year that we can have, that we can live with, and that the Lord is blessing us enough with income. Now the problem comes with spending. The problem comes when you are going to decide what to do with the money. And the problem comes when, stuff comes up and, wow, I like that. I like those new shoes. I like that. I would like to take that vacation. I would like to do this. I would like to do that. Some of the most important things that I've learned in budgeting is that, again, first, you can never, ever, absolutely ever spend more than what you're earning. Never. Don't do it. Don't. Just don't. Again, if we're thinking about a media, the general public here, and I said I dare to say that the majority, the big majority, I dare to say that even more than 90% of the people that are here earn a good enough salary a year. So that means that if you earn a good enough salary, there's no reason for you to spend more than what you are earning. At least no more than that. Again, what does that mean? That means that everything that I spend is included in this budget, and everything that I spend has a percentage. Another thing that I think is interesting, that I say that I like, and I think is very important for us to do, is that when we budget, we make sure to assign a line for everything. One of the most common problems or things that we do, And I can tell you, for example, I can share with you that sometimes we've even had that problem at the conference level. Sometimes we've had the problem at the conference level of not putting stuff in the budget. And when you don't put something in the budget, you know, the expenditure is going to come. The situation is going to come, and you're just going to have to get it from somewhere else. You're just going to have to pray to God that tithe is good that month, and that you're able to make up for that. And one of the things that I've been working on, trying to, you know, as much as possible, is just to make sure that even the smallest thing, but if I know that it's going to come, even if it's the smallest thing, there is a line in that budget. You know, when I was doing my personal finances at the beginning, I was not budgeting on clothes. I was not budgeting on clothes. I was like, no, I have enough clothes. I think it's fine. Plus, I wasn't earning that much, and I did. It's just not true. It's not true. It's not true that you'll never buy clothes. You have to at some point buy some clothes. You have to put that in your budget. Sometimes we don't budget. Those of us who own a house, sometimes we don't include some things that are important there. If you own a house, there's things that you have to put in your budget. You have to make sure that you include those things in your budget. Sometimes something else that I did at the beginning that it was wrong also is that I was not budgeting for you know, kind of at least once in a month going out to it. It is going to happen. you know that it's going to happen. At some point, you're not gonna be able. Sometimes even not just because you want to do it, but because you kind of feel a little pressure to do it. You know, in a group. Even the smallest thing, like just, you know, giving yourself a treat. You know, let it be small, right? Let it not be a 10% of your budget, but a little piece of it. You have to know that those things are gonna come at some point. Normally, when I'm talking with churches and we're talking about budgeting, one of the things that is really complicated especially for a small church to do, is to start budgeting for building. And of course, you know, at that point, the majority of the churches are renting. And you know, why do it? And I normally say, well, if you don't start making that line in your budget, even if a year you're only allocating $100 for that, even if it's the smallest thing, put a line in your budget. Put a line in your budget that includes absolutely everything that you're gonna have to working on. That way, when the expense comes, at least you have something. And if it was greater than what you budgeted for, well, you know, maybe that's not the best, but you started to work on that. And especially, I like doing that, or I like to encourage people and institutions doing that, because once you get more income, you'll be able to expand that. And that's the thing that I like about this budget, being a budget based on percentages, not just amounts. You know, say that your monthly income is $100, and you spend $100, right? They attend on tithe, you know, X percentage in offerings, and you know, taxes, blah blah blah, all these things here and there, blah blah blah, right? And you left $1 for clothes. Well, what about next year when you start earning $110? What do? You apply that percentage, and then you have just a little bit more for those clothes. You have a little bit more for every single category, and as much as you can, keep increasing everything at the same rate. I talk about this with our department directors all the time. I wish that we can get to that point. We're not there yet, but I tell them, I wish that I can get to this point where if tithe went up 10%, then all of our departments go up in expense 10%. Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be the way to work it out? Of course, that only works if you have in consideration all the expenses. If you don't have in consideration all the expenses, then that doesn't work. And probably some of the historical problems that we're trying to fix, and we're probably not there yet. It's it's kind of an ideal. It's kind of a too ideal situation, but that should be. Well, that tells you also that sometimes we have cuts. Sometimes we could have a payment cut, or at least in when it comes to tithe. I have to consider that there might be a year where tithe is actually down. Where tithe, for whatever reason, whatever happened, actually tithe went down. Well, guess what? Instead of breaking my head, what should I do here? What should I do there? Well, if tithe went down 2%, all of our departments go down 2%. And all of us are going to shrink our belts a little bit, and we're going to tithe our belts a little bit, and we're going to get to where we need it to be in that sense. It's just impossible. And the Bible tells us, and God tells us, Roy, I want you to be financially blessed. And I'm going to be there to do the things that I need to do for you. And I'm going to make sure that you have a job. I'm going to make sure that you have health so that you can work. I'm going to make sure that, to bless you in what you do. But you have to plan. You have to sit down. You have to take time. And believe me, it takes time. It takes time to follow up on my expenses, make sure that what I'm doing is correct, analyzing if I'm allocating enough to all the certain areas that I have to, and every month being faithful on making sure that I look at all my income, all my expenses, know exactly what I'm spending on, and seeing, if I'm having leftover or not. It takes time, but we have to do it. That's the part that God won't do for us. And again, God wants to bless us, financially speaking. But if we're not willing to do the job of looking at our finances, can God bless if we're not willing to do that? I mean, it's God is going to help me on the things that I can do. I can do some things about my health, but there's some things that I can't do about my health. Right? There's things that this world, I'm human, I'm subject to sickness. There's some things that God is not going to be able to do. There's some things about the economy that I can work with and that may or may not affect my finances. I can't do much about the economy. Right? God will do his job of providing a job for me, of making, that I can afford what I need to afford. Now, it is my job to look at my budget. It is my job to look at my expenses. It is my job to be, to be faithful on that. Who in the right mind would build a tower and not sit down first and consider the expense and make sure that they have enough for it? Well, sometimes we do that. Sometimes we make that mistake. And then we want to blame the economy. We want to blame God. We want to blame everyone because of our financial problems. And why is it that things are getting more expensive and this is, giving me so much problems and this and that? Wait a minute. Maybe if we take enough time to make sure that we're spending appropriately, maybe we could get to that. And to consider as many details as possible in our budget. Some of us, sadly, do not budget for our offerings. The tithe is something very specific that God says, that's a 10%, but offerings are not specific, right? When it comes to offerings, and that's a whole other topic, I'm not going to get into it today, but when we get to the offerings, it's really interesting that the Bible says that we should give to God out of the thankfulness of our heart, and we should do it according to the blessing that God has given us. When it comes to tithe, the same words are used in terms of it should be according to the blessing. Meaning, if I got $100, I have to give tithe of $10. But when we're talking about the offering, and he's saying the exact same words, that means that I have to give my offering based on the blessing that I have received. It's interesting that sometimes what we do is, I received $100 in tithe. Yeah, I'm sorry, I received $100. I'm going to give 10 because I'm giving the 10% based on the blessing that I received. But when it comes to the offering, I'm going to give $1 because that's how thankful I feel with the Lord. And that's according to my blessing. And that is 1%, right? But next month, I receive 120. And I give to the Lord $12 in tithe because that is according to the blessing that I receive. But when it comes to the offering, I give another $1 again. That was not according to the blessing, right? Anyways, I'm not going to get into that today. We should budget our offerings too. And hopefully it is a percentage. That is the way. That is the way. God is not putting the percentage, but He's saying that it has to be according to the blessing. It has to be the same principle. So hopefully we do that way too. And when we are faithful and generous in returning our tithe and offerings, you know what Malachi says? That there will be food in my home, in my house. When we are willing to give, and we're faithful, there are not going to be needs at the church. I don't know, the treasury is listening. Sometimes there's stuff that is missing in the church, and what can we do? And there's not enough money for this, there's not enough money for that. When we're faithful, Malachi said that there will always be enough at the house of the Lord. Anyways, I'm going to stop there. So hopefully we can include every single line. And as our income changes, then we can be adjusting also the other areas of spending. Any question, comments, or anything about this? Oh my goodness, I have taken just too much time on this one. All right, let's move on to the next one. And now I'm going to answer the question that you had. Thanks. No debt. The other principle that the Bible tells us about when it comes to having healthy finances and managing our money correctly is having no debt. And I don't think that I should spend too much time on this one, right? We just studied that during the week. Hopefully we did, right? Hopefully we did study that this week. Why not having debt? Why not having debt? The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower slave to the lender. When we borrow money, it is a big problem. It is a big problem. The principle should be for us not to have debt, right? The principle should be for us not to owe anything to anyone. And there are many reasons. I'm not, again, we just studied the Sabbath school lesson. Reasons like reasons like the interest that we have to end up paying on these things. Different reasons. Now, there was a question. I'm sorry, could you remind me of your name? Vanessa. Vanessa was asking the question, what about a mortgage? What about paying for a house versus renting? I think. Obviously the book that I recommended talks about this, and at least since I've been looking, every other Christian financial guideline will tell you that a mortgage is the exception to this rule of not having debt. That is the great exception to the rule of not having debt. Now, could someone tell me why? Why a mortgage is different? Because it appreciates. Exactly. You see, why are not you here giving the... why would you ask the question if you already knew the answer? That is the big difference when it comes to having debt on a house. The difference between a house and every other asset is that it appreciates. It gets value. So if you bought your house, your home, your apartment, or whatever, about 5 years ago, you will be able to attest to this. You will be able to say, yes, that is truth. I just before all this change in the market in 2018, my wife and I bought a little apartment, and it's now it has now increased its value like 75%. Something like that. Of course, we were not expecting that at that point, but we're thinking that by the time that I end up paying the mortgage, which in that case was to 15 years, definitely that was what's going to happen. That's what the market has shown us for many, 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 many years. That's probably somewhere safe. Now, other than that, car, a cell phone, paying, or getting a loan for a vacation, getting a loan for almost any other thing. Well, I'm sorry. I think I'm making another exception. There might be other exceptions. I'm sorry if I'm missing another that is important. But I just thought about another one. Education. I think that probably that's one where you could definitely say, it's value, because it's gonna be value in the future. Of course, the education that I get, I'm gonna keep that for the rest of my life. No one's gonna take that away from me. There is some value, of course, if there's nothing else to do on getting a loan on education. And there might be something else that I'm missing there. I'm sorry if I.
To invest in a business, if you're setting up a business and you want to borrow money to,
There you go. Getting a loan for a business. If it's something well studied, it's something that I've taken all the measures that I need. Probably something that is important when you take loan on a business is that you get insurance on it, and that kind of thing. It is something, of course, that can be worth to invest on or to borrow money for. So that would be the great exception. But other than that, the advice from the Bible is no. Don't get into that. For the first car that I got, I did get into a little bit of a debt. The first car that I got. But, things have worked out, and thankfully at this point, we're off that debt. We have paid that out, and we can now just continue to save, because at some point that car is going to break, and we're going to need another car, but I can save without having to pay any interest, and we can continue to do that. Something that sometimes people do for some, different reasons, but sometimes someone is paying a car payment. Someone is making a car payment. And blessings from the Lord, they get to pay that off. And then they take those 250, 350 or whatever that they were paying, and instead of saving for a car in the future, because at some point they're gonna need that, I don't know. They get into a subscription of something, or they just decide to buy a little more clothes every month, or I don't know. They use that for something else. It's gonna cost you in the future if you're doing that. In your budget, make sure that whether you're making a payment for a car, which if you can get out of that would be great. That would be the best. But if you've gotten out of that, probably the best thing would be to continue to save, because at some point you're going to have to replace that. At some point you're going to have to replace your cell phone. At some point you're going to have to replace some of the things that you use on a daily basis. So of course, know that. I would imagine that all of you, or the majority of you, have heard about the roll-off method of paying debt. Yes? No? No? Okay. Well, I'm a little surprised. But anyways, this guideline or this division guideline and many others that are there that I've heard of, they teach you about what to do with debt and how to pay off all the debts that you have in a way that you can soon get rid of all your debt. Any of you has heard about Dave Ramsey? He talks about that a lot. So you can either pay for his books or just use the one that is in the North American Division website that is free. But he has a radio program, Dave Ramsey, amazing, great program that you can listen to, get some tips on that. Get yourself educated, and it's coming from someone who's Christian. And I think that the things that he says are also related to biblical principles. Anyways, the Bible talks enough to us about not getting into debt, because that is going to make us slaves. But this this spreadsheet, it is actually a spreadsheet that you can find. I took a picture of it. Shows us how we can continue to pay or how we can pay some of the debt. The idea is that the first step that you do, the first step that you do for yourself is get into a balanced budget. Once you've gotten into a balanced budget where you can see all of your expenses, including the debt, including any debt that you might have, then you put it here. And you would order those from the one that you owe the least to the one that you owe the most. So normally, when people have different debts, some of them might be on some cards, some either credit cards or whatever type of card, and some of them might be debt to someone, something that you owe to their parents or a family member or something. And normally the last one is the car payment. Normally that's the last one. And again, remember that here we're not including mortgage. We're not talking about mortgage here. So the principle is that, let's say that you have your budget is balanced, but comes January 1st, and at your job they give you a little nice 3% raise. And oh goodness, that's good, excellent. I have a little bit more money, 3% more. Of course, of that 3%, part of it goes to taxes, part of it is tithe, part of it is my offerings. But I'm gonna be left out with a little bit that that I can spend. So the idea is that you use that much extra that you received to pay for the smallest debt. You use that to pay for the smallest one, right? And once you've paid off that small one, then you use the money that you had to pay for that small one to pay the following one, and that additional 3% also, right? And once you pay that one, you continue to go until you get rid of all that debt. And it's amazing, it's really interesting how easily we can get to that. And I remember we have at home, my wife also works, and we, each of us have to have a car, of course. And first, we paid off my car, or the one that I use, mostly. And it was really interesting that to that one, it took us a little bit to save up that money. But it was really interesting how soon we were able to pay the other car. In less than a year after, we were able to pay the other car because we were using the money from one payment to pay to the other. Once you got rid of all the small debts that are not mortgage, stuff like that, then you can start thinking on, investing some money and, what is the best thing that you would use for this. So the second principle, and again, I want to make sure I say this enough, all these principles, they rest on the first principles that we talked about. Because, one example, if you're doing this, but you're not returning your tithe, you can't expect a blessing from the Lord. If you're doing this, but you're not recognizing that He is the owner of everything, and you're, whenever you're making a financial decision, I paid off my debt. Oh wow, I have all these $500 that I was paying on debt. With the mortgage that I have, which is $1,000, if I put this together, I could get a bigger house, right? I could get I could live somewhere nicer. And so I have now my mortgage can be $1,500. Well, that's an idea, but let's ask God what He thinks of that. And it might be that He's okay with it. It might be that you just had kids, you need a bigger place, and He allowed you to be able to pay that debt so that you could have that place. It could be that, but it might be not. I don't know. Let's ask God. Let's make sure that He is happy with the decisions that we're making. And again, if we do all these things, but we don't put those things on the first principles, we're doing nothing. Did I answer your question? Well, you already had the answer. I don't know why you asked. But thank you for the question. Was it okay? Yes. Any detail that you wanted to add?
Yeah, so with the mortgage, if you're taking a loan for the mortgage, that means that you could also take a loan for a down payment. Because then you can
That's right. I'm sorry. You asked about that. You know, of course, if you could not do that, that would be better. But I guess that's where you start doing the math. And you know, those are some of the questions that I hear a lot of times with Dave Ramsey. For example, what if by you taking that loan, you make your monthly payment a lot less? Or I'm sorry, I'm not a lot less just in money. Of course, it's going to be a lot less, but less in your interest. And the interest that you were going to pay on borrowing for the down payment is going to be less than the it's going to be less than the interest that you were going to pay additional by not having that down payment. Then it is a smart idea, of course. But you know, you have to do that math. You have to do all that. At the end of the day, you have to make sure that you take some time and you look at the different possibilities. Of course, if you didn't have to, that would be better. Now, the other thing, the other exercise that you have to do is, if I take a loan for the down payment and I have to pay X amount of dollars on that interest, what if I just waited 1 or 2 years on saving that up? You know, what's the amount of interest that I would end up paying versus waiting 1 or 2 years? Is it worth it? You know, I think all those things that you have to take in consideration. What if this place that I got is an amazing deal? And when I say an amazing deal, it's real. You know, something real, not something that you know is a person that. For work reasons, they're moving to Italy and they want to sell their house in this month. They want to sell it and they really don't care that much about if they actually get the value of it. They're selling it for half of it. Well, you know, it is a smart idea that even if I have to get a loan for the down payment because of the you know, the financial exercise that is being done there, it might be that is where we have to sit down and really look at all the scenarios and see if it's a smart decision to do that or not. That would be the place. Of course, we're thinking already that the down payment is going to go to an asset that actually appreciates. So in that sense, it makes sense. But at the end of the day, whether you're getting something that is worth that, you know, you want to pay the least interest possible. And that's why, you know, people even go to different banks and see this one is offering me a 4.2, but this other one is offering a 4.0. So, you know, 4.2 is good, still good. But, you know, at the end of the day, we still want to pay the least interest possible. Hopefully that answered your question. Thank you. All right. So let's move to the next part, saving and investing. That's the other principle that is really important that we apply in our lives and that we put into our financial life. And when we do this, you can make sure that you're closer to having financial health. And I'm already past the time that I should have, but I'm gonna finish this a little quickly. The first level is getting debt-free. We talked about this. This is the only proper foundation for investing. Develop your spending plan. Use credit and credit cards properly. Pay off your house. You know, the better that you can, the better that you work on paying off, the more that you're going to have for actually investing. The second level is saving for future needs. Saving, building up an emergency fund that is 3 to 6 months of expenses. Something can happen at any time. At any time, you can be laid off your job. At any time, you can have a financial emergency. At some point, something could come up, and it's important to have that. Third level is investing the surplus, or well, you know, going back to the other one, I can also talk about, well, you can start saving for you know, special projects that you might have. Third level, investing your surplus. Learn about various type of investments. Plan for retirement. You know, we have to save for retirement. A lot of our companies where we work, They have retirement plans. I've heard that a good rule is that 15% of your salary is going to retirement. There can be different opinions on that, but making sure that you are investing for retirement since you're young, it's very important. And then other things like kids' college. Those of us who have kids, starting to plan for that, starting to save for that, very important. And there are interesting plans that you can make where you can save money specifically for that, and it gets interest, from the market. And the fourth level, diversifying for safety. Understand what you want to accomplish with your investment portfolio. Set goals. How much is enough? Spread out the risk. And if you've gone through all of this, you have a balanced budget. You're debt free. You're saving for retirement. You're saving for your kids' college. You've done all those things. You have you're paying a mortgage. It is important to pay a mortgage. We have to encourage people to do that. At some point you need to have your own house. If you've done all those things and you're okay with all those things, then you can start thinking about, well, what am I going to do with this additional money? I'm going to invest in the market. I'm going to invest in government bonds. I'm going to invest on a business. You can think a little bit more about that. Always, like I said, asking for God's guidance. Maybe God wants us just to be generous with others. How to apply Joseph's example in our lives. Make sure that we follow that. When there was plenty in Egypt, he made sure to save for the bad times. And then being generous. This is an interesting indicator that you are healthy financially speaking. Not because you have so much money that you can be generous, but applying this from the beginning, with others, it is interesting. When you have that, not just that peace of mind, but that heart that comes from the Lord, not from us, to see other people's needs and wanting to meet those needs and wanting to provide for those. And if you remember in the books, I think it's Leviticus probably and Numbers, it talks a lot about how the people of Israel were supposed to provide for those who did not have enough, for widows, for poor people. There were so many detailed things that they needed to do, and those things brought blessings to themselves. And this, I'm leaving it at the end. It doesn't mean that we have to do it after all those other things have been done. It's interesting when in our budget we start saving up money for that kind of thing. I'm putting this away for scholarships for this type of project. I'm putting away for this, and it is always my practice. And I do that also according to the Lord's blessing for me, meaning according to the funds that I receive. I set money away for that. That to me is the ultimate indicator of a healthy financial life, because when we understand that the financial blessings that we have, or financial means that we have, are not the most important thing, but the people are the most important thing, then you can actually do this. Do not store up yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break and steal. But store up yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Matthew 6:19-21. Proverbs 22:9 says, the generous will themselves be blessed. The generous themselves will be blessed, for they share their food with the poor. And then Matthew 6:31-33. So don't worry about the things saying, what will we eat? What will we drink? What will we wear? These things dominate the thoughts of unbelievers. We're Christians. Why should we fear for these things? You know, we should do our job. We should do what we need to do, but we shouldn't worry about it like we will be abandoned by God. That's not the case. But your Heavenly Father already knows all your needs. Seek the kingdom of God above all else and live righteously, and He will give you everything you need. The Bible is just full of these type of messages for us. I think this is my last slide, but I think that what I want to leave you with is just that I said before. You know, just trust the Lord. I was saying yesterday, I can tell you that I've lived this in my own life. The fact of putting God first, just literally, I never thought that I would be so blessed. Honestly, you know, especially those of us who come from a different country, and who you know, those of us who have lived, you know, either different lives or who have seen different lives. You know, this country is different, but those of us who come from a different place, I never would have thought being at this point in my life, living what I'm living, and being able to do what I've done, or being able to acquire what I have, and that doesn't mean that I'm rich or, you know, but it means that some way or the other, being faithful has allowed God to bless me, not necessarily because I have a lot, but because I feel really, really, really happy with what the Lord has given me. And I mentioned this yesterday. Hopefully, it doesn't come across wrong. I say this just because I want you to feel that way. Yeah, I'm sure that many of you feel that way already. But if for some reason you're feeling that part in your life, you're feeling unhappy in that part of your life, because that's the thing. Do you feel unhappy about that part in your life? Do you feel like you're missing in that financial part of your life? Well, I think first you have to, you know, go back to your relationship with God. You go back to your relationship with God. Let the Lord lead you. Let the Lord make you happy. Let the Lord feed you like a sheep, and give you the things that you need, and give you everything that you need, and give you everything in the sense of the financial blessings, specifically the material things, but also putting peace in your heart. And then allow Him to guide you into how to use your resources wisely. You know, what things to do, what to apply, what things to purchase, what things not to purchase, what things are actually going to enrich my life, and what things are not going to add value, and it's just going to be an expense. You know, hopefully the things that, you know, we're putting our money, not in stuff that is just expenses. Hopefully we're putting our money in stuff that is actually going to stick with us, that is going to add value to our lives. And when you can apply these things, again, especially the first things that we talked, and then later all these other things, you can be sure that the Lord will bring the happiness that you need in your lives. There is no need for us to suffer in this area. There is no need. If we're suffering, and I don't want, again, I don't want this to come across incorrectly. There was Job. He had tragedy, right? He had problems. It doesn't mean that if I have problems, I'm in a, you know, automatically I'm in a bad spiritual situation. But I feel like more of having or not having financial problems, if you feel unhappy, unfulfilled, if you feel sad all the time about that part, that is where I probably would worry a little bit. You know, you can have problems and still trust the Lord and know that you know, things are gonna be okay. But if you feel bad all the time, if you're unhappy, fundamentally unhappy, that is probably where I would start to let me think about this. Let me make sure that I'm applying the principles that God wants me to apply in order to feel okay, feel good, feel that God has provided for me on these two. So hopefully we can apply these things. It seems to me that there's a great congregation here that is already going in this direction. So almost feels like, you know, it's it kind of always feels like it's not even that useful, but it is always helpful to read all these things and go through them again. So thank you so much again for how much you have blessed me. We continue to pray for you, everything that you're doing. We love you. We appreciate you so much. And I hope that you feel like we're serving you well. That is our goal. So blessings from the Lord for you all.
Do you have maybe 5 minutes to take questions, or your time is up? You have to go, right?
It is a little late, but let's see if we can answer some questions if there are any.
Any quick questions? Yeah. Use that one.
Two quick questions though.
Yes.
The slide on having a balanced budget. Sorry, I couldn't read the details. So maybe the question I'm about to ask, the answer is already in there, but just I couldn't read. So, what do you define as a balanced budget? Is it balanced because the expenditure and the revenue match and zero out, or do you call it balanced because your budget has everything, like there is entertainment, there is generosity, there is like a bit of everything? Is that what defines it as balance? That's the first one.
Technically, a balanced budget is where your income less your expenses equals zero. Technically, that's it. But you're correct on something. Maybe our budget is balanced, but it's not, let's say, perfect, right?
Okay.
Let's say that budget still has to be improved.
Okay.
Even though it's balanced, it can be improved.
Okay.
And you know, that was a little bit of the example that I was giving. You know, at some point in our even at our conference level, we have gone through, you know, difficulties like this, or, you know, situations where we've fallen into some things were not there. The budget was balanced, but some things are not there. So the first goal is to have a balanced budget.
That's right.
That's the first goal. And that can be very easy, right? That can be very easy. But the following goal would be to make sure that everything that should be there is there.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Second and last question. The being generous part happens to be like the last step. Does this mean that before you can be generous, you need to first have a...
Not at all. And I think I said it, right? I think I said it. But if it's for clarification, thank you so much. No, it was just at the end, just because. But no, in no way. On the contrary, being generous, truly generous, it can only be the result of what God is doing in our hearts. It doesn't come from us. It's never gonna come from us. You know, I can be nice once. I can, you know, see something and then give to someone once, and sometimes it might even be for selfish reasons, you know. But truly being generous is just a result. That's why I was saying that's an indicator of you know, us having a healthy financial life. But thank you so much for the question too.
Any last question? All right, quick one from me. Do we have to pay all our debts before we start saving?
That would be the best. Definitely, that would be the best. You know, unless there can be some situations. Again, you know, maybe a mortgage is something that, you know, you can put away a little bit, or maybe a student loan. You know, maybe that's something that you can treat a little different. But your first goal is to pay your debt, then start saving. Why? You know, just because of what I was saying before. You know, when we're talking about, is it a good idea to get a loan for a down payment? Well, you have to do the math. And when you start saving, yes, that is good. But when you start saving before paying debt, you continue to pay interest. You continue to pay interest. So every time that you can do that, and of course you have to sit down and look at your specific situation and see what is the smarter. But as a general rule, you first pay your debt, then you start saving.
But we can have emergency savings, right? Like maybe you have $5,000 or $3,000 or $1,000 as a saving, then you start paying all your debt. I know it's not an easy thing to do. All right, Adam.
Yeah.
I got a question. When do we say some debt is a good debt and some debt are bad debt? The reason I'm saying that the United States has a lot of debt. However, they look at it as a good debt.
Right.
Can we compare that to as an individual, you know?
Right. It is so above my pay grade to talk about the United States federal government and how they manage their money. I'm not able to speak to that specifically, right? I'm not able to speak to that specifically. That's way beyond my my area, of expertise or anything. Or even if I thought that it was my area of expertise, it's way beyond what I should get. Well, that's one thing. Now, how do we know that some debt is good debt? Well, it was perfectly explained by Vanessa. If you have debt on something that is actually getting more value, then it's debt that is good debt. We can say it's good debt. If it's not getting or adding value, and some things like we talked about education, right? Getting a loan for college studies. Well, maybe there's no monetary value to that, but something that your education sticks with you and is going to allow you to have a better job and to be better prepared and all of that. But in general, good debt is the debt that you acquire on stuff that is actually getting value, not losing value. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Roy Simpson. We really appreciate this weekend, and I love people. I realized that some of them were asking you a lot of questions. I believe that you are one of the youngest conference treasurers I have ever seen. Many a times you will see a conference treasurer will be an old person. So God has really blessed you. And the guys were saying that if you could transfer your name to the English service, because you'll be more beneficial to these young professionals, so that they can tap into your blessings. All right, we really appreciate you so much for coming, your time and energy. And this is not going to be the last time. You're going to come here again, because now we are family. It's just that you can't handle spicy food. That's the only problem. We gave him a Ghanaian awache, but he said, Pastor, I can't handle the spicy part of it. All right, Pastor Chumesi, I will invite you here to pray over our treasurer as he lives here. He said, did you bring us money?
We're always bringing money through these two gentlemen.
Shall we all stand for a word of prayer? Our Father in heaven, we thank you for a well-spent Sabbath, where you have talked to us, you have also taught us, especially how we can manage the things that you have entrusted to us. We are guilty because in times past, we were not so careful. As a result, we are not seeing your blessings the way we should. Well, we thank you that throughout this quarter and throughout the education that we have received today, these things have opened our eyes. This implementation is meant to take us out of debt. Therefore, help us so that these principles, we can use them and live a joyful and pleasant life that you want us to have while we are here on earth. We also want to commit Brother Roy Simpson into your hands. As he travels back to Dayton, Lord, give him traveling mercies and continue to give him the knowledge and wisdom that he needs as he manages the financial aspect of this conference. Be with his wife, the children, and be with the people that he works with. For we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you so much. Quick announcement. Coming Saturday at the English service is going to be Home and Family Week. From Friday, Sabbath afternoon, Sabbath morning, and Sabbath evening. All the studies, the messages, and the sermons are going to be about marriage and relationship. Please be there with us. And also, those of you, you invite me say Monsono, Mumrametai Yechi. Yame Yaduma, Saturday no enumere. Saturday na enyumre se na yenya abon ya bom nkae no ye ko dinner Eda Freddy so obeko Eda Freddy amo o se ona eche mo ochia mo ma yenchia no free Ghana buy enche Eda ye chia o all right enti nyame aduma yes so wo ha na se wonya ntro din tua osika mimi na ejiji sika no restaurant we are ekono Eda opon twene bo ase wo so wo de na yiri pie ya che nti omo a mo de mo yiri pie ya che nyina no mo de mo hue na mo mfa mo yiri mo mpie na banku no ni fufu no Eda wo kire awa ache no adoso na mo mrana enye kama nti kofi se fast de wo ese okobi wo ne wife ese okobi o say which restaurant wo de man be catch o mo say friend say Brio